Good morning, good evening. Welcome to PADM 401, lesson 6, week 5. So just want to start off with the announcements. Paper 1 is already due. I'm taping this on Monday night, so I will open up Dropbox. A couple of people had issues last minute, so I'll open that up today and see if you can just upload your paper there. I should have your paper back to you sometime next week. I have about 30 or 40 of these to go through, so it'll take a little bit of time, but I want to have these in time so when you start paper 2, you already know what you did wrong, what you did right, and your strengths and weaknesses. Paper 2, there's a little bit of confusion. It's July 10th is when it's due, and that's for the second paper. Obviously, the news it's dominating is the Orlando shooting. It's Monday night and information's still a little sketchy, but we know who the person did. And I'm not going to say his name because I don't like to. You shouldn't publicize mass shooters because they're seeking publicity and they're seeking attention. And I hope one day the media can move away from doing that. But we know his name. We know where he comes from. They're debating whether there was an external link. Right now, it doesn't look like there was an external link to ISIS. We know the death toll is 50, and it's expected to rise. And we know this guy was a pretty nasty person, not just because of the shooting, but if you talk to his coworkers, ex-wives, even his parents, really unhinged, probably mentally ill, definitely homophobic from all intents and purposes, and it's very likely he covered his mental illness in homophobia, racism, and Islamic fundamentalism, and that's just initial speculation from what I see, and I hope when we have one of these incidents, whether it's this or next terrorist attack or previous Boston attack, I hope it lets you think about why you're in this program and what you want to do in the future and to try and prevent things like this from occurring one way or another. So just some quick Homeland Security applications. What point does radicalization deserve further scrutiny? This is a theme that comes up and down with the Fort Hood shooter, the first Fort Hood shooter, Nidal Hasan, the Boston, the Tsarnaev older brother, and now this. Obviously, there were indicators of what they were doing was wrong, but oftentimes they were added to terrorist watch lists. They were investigated by the FBI or investigated by other agencies, but they were let go. So when does radicalization deserve further scrutiny? These people obviously picked the interest of the FBI, and there was further scrutiny. But then when can you arrest them? When can you do enough that you can actually deter them from carrying out an attack? What can you do to ensure that suspicious people who are still below the level of being able to arrest them, cannot execute attacks like this? And then going on, the gap between watchlisted and arrested. This is what I call the red gap. Certain people are put on no-fly lists. Certain people are put on terrorist watch lists, but they're still not meet the bearing or meet the intent of being able to put them in jail. Again, this was Nidal Hasan. This was Tsarnaev, the older Boston Marathon bomber. And apparently in this case as well. They're on a watch list, but they're on a watch list, but they're not. They haven't committed enough crime to be arrested, so they're in this band here. You can watch them, but it's hard to watch somebody 24 hours a day. And it's not very apparent that even if you were watching them, they couldn't conduct these attacks. So that bears the question: is law enforcement hamstrung from being able to arrest certain people? Or are there certain other things that we can do? Right now, you can not fly a plane if you're on a no-fly list, hence the term. Can we prevent them from doing other things? You can't get to certain jobs. You can't work in an airport if you're on a watch list. And that kind of brings me up to the third point. And again, I know this is political, and it's a political season, a part of where you fall on gun control. But the question is, can watch lists be cross-cued against people who purchase guns, or the other way around, where you can cross-cue someone who pops up on a watch list and look at their gun purchase history? I'll let you decide, and this is maybe a decent paper topic, but I'll let you decide on whether that's legal, constitutional, right? Even if it might be legal, is it the right thing? Will it be effective? And again, we're talking about something that says if you go in and you buy a gun and you're on a watch list, you can't buy a gun, at least a high-powered assault weapon. On the other hand, flipping that over, if you want to know if someone pops up on a terrorist watch list and find out their purchasing history of firearms, that would require things like registries and to track weapons that I'll let you decide whether that's a good idea or not. But in order for that to be effective, in order to give the police another tool to monitor terrorists, you would need those lists and those registries. So a lot of things come out of this tragedy that are applicable to why you're in this program and to the subjects taught. So that's Orlando. And again, feel free to debate on the message boards if you see there's other issues or anything like that. Okay, so going on to lesson 6, it touches on, but I want to really emphasize for lesson 6 is the consequence management part of Homeland Security, the disaster management where FEMA is involved, where state and local officials are involved. And I kind of want, when you're going through this lesson, to think about Hurricane Katrina and the failures of Hurricane Katrina. I don't know how many people were old enough to remember it, but it was pretty shocking, at least from the pictures that you saw on television, to the American psyche. And it's enough that even if you weren't in New Orleans, if you worked for a state or local official, the governor or the municipality would probably go up to somebody like you, the Homeland Security Director, and say, okay, I don't want this from happening in my state or in my county. Make sure it doesn't. So the question is, what did happen? And I think there's a lot of myths, there's a lot of issues, false media reports that came out of Hurricane Katrina that we know now were wrong 10 years later. But just some of the issues, one of the things I always say is we knew it was coming. We knew Hurricane Katrina, we knew a hurricane was coming 3-4 days in advance. For other disasters, sometimes you don't get that advance. If there's a tsunami, if there's an earthquake, if there's flash flooding like we saw over the summer in some areas in Texas and the Midwest. But for Hurricane Katrina, what probably is the more inexcusable part is we had 3 days, 2 days, at least 24 hours notice to execute any plans, yet they weren't executed very successfully. So that's probably the no excuses part of this training or of this disaster. One of the things that was oversight was we call is evacuation and second level personnel evacuation. All cities have the ability to let me backtrack a little bit. I think evacuation was the largest task there was a failure at for Hurricane Katrina, evacuating people out of danger zones, for lack of a better term. Now, all cities, including New Orleans at the time, had plans, what I call it is for evacuation of handicapped, nursing homes, hospitals, orphanages, those very vulnerable populations. What you didn't have plans for was I call a second level evacuation. People who are poor, people who might not be connected in a way to the news and the media and to all the alerts. People whose whole life, whose all their assets and all their possessions are in their home. People who don't have cars because they're on the bottom of the socioeconomic ladder. This is where evacuation went wrong. And the question is, should and I should warn you, I fall on one side of this. I believe that municipalities, governments, governors, state governments have an obligation to identify those second level personnel and ensure that they are evacuated. Particularly, again, if you have the 2-3 days notice. It's important to note that evacuation is a task of state and local officials. A lot of blame on the media perspective went on the federal side, but the federal government cannot order an evacuation. And, that's one of the, maybe another paper topic is, should the federal government have the ability to order an evacuation, and who do they evacuate? But no, the federal government does not have a role in evacuation at all. So that's something to consider when we look at the failure of Katrina and why Katrina ended up to be such a major issue. Second order relief. Again, first order relief is taking people who are stuck on houses. And that the federal government, the Coast Guard, actually did pretty well. People were trapped. Like the water was coming and they were stuck on their roofs, or they were stuck on top of their schools, or stuck in the floods. The Coast Guard did very well plucking people off their houses and responding in a somewhat timely fashion. Some people did die awaiting rescue, but the majority of people that were killed in Katrina died in their homes, not waiting rescue, just died immediately because of the flood waters. I don't think any evacuation or any relief plan could have saved them. Now, the issue that does come up is the second order relief. So someone might not have been injured in their house, but their house might have been washed away. They have no access to water, sanitation. And then obviously this is where everyone was just told willy-nilly, go to the Superdome, go to the convention center. There was no plan and there was no water and food and basic necessities for, again, what I call second order relief. The people that needed immediate rescue, they were, for the most part, taken care of. But for the people that, again, lost their net worth in their houses and could still walk, but they had no second place to go. And I like to call it second order relief. And this is where both the state, local, and federal officials failed. They didn't understand, okay, people are going to congregate and they need basic necessities to live. And this is where the Katrina failed. Along with that, and you'll hear this term for disaster relief, push-pull, and this goes along with state and local officials. There was no, okay, what happens if a disaster relief? Does the state request federal assistance, or does federal assistance push assets down to the state and local level? It's called push-pull, and this had not been sorted out prior to Hurricane Katrina, or even during Hurricane Katrina. And then finally, and I'm going to be controversial when I say this, I know a lot of people died in Katrina and billions were lost, but I'm going to make the argument that Katrina was as much a public perception failure as it was a disaster evacuation failure as well. The government on all levels did not look like it was in control. And this fed rumors, a lot of false rumors were brought out, rumors of looting, rumors of people, helicopters getting shot by looters, cases of rape and killings in the Superdome. None of that was true. None of it was true, but it was reported widespread in the media. And again, because the government looked incompetent and they didn't manage the strategic communications very well, these rumors were allowed to proliferate, and I think it caused a cycle of mass panic. So as you're going through this lesson, and the lesson doesn't always deal with consequence management, but I think the Katrina issue is worthy of further study, worthy of further report. In fact, one or two people did do their reports in Katrina, but it's to analyze what happened and what were the key issues is definitely something to keep in mind as you're going through this week. So if there's any questions or issues, let me know, and I look forward to reading your papers and then finishing up on the discussion boards.